What a time to be alive. I felt like I had a midlife crisis earlier today. I was out in Brooklyn in the Clinton area, and I started to reflect on my life, because today I received my very first paycheck as a licensed psychologist, right? And I began to do some self-reflection, thinking about my life and whether or not I made the right choices in life. We all come to that point, right? I don't think that anyone's experience in life is so unique that no one else can relate to it, right? So I'm going to read you guys this email that I received from this guy several days ago, who himself is also experiencing a midlife crisis. And I find it interesting. Let's see, find a safe place to put this. I find it interesting how a lot of men, specifically white men, have found solace and a safe space in coming to me and expressing their innermost inhibitions, secrets, things that they probably would not feel comfortable sharing with anyone else, right? They have taken to my platform, come to me, and just let it all out. And I welcome it too, right? And not just obviously from white people, white men specifically, but from anyone, right, who can be respectful and honest enough to dig deep into themselves and be honest with themselves. It's like we're so multifaceted as people. There are many different faces to who we are. And we often wear this facade that only aligns with what society wants us to be, who society wants us to be, right? At the expense of minimizing and reducing ourselves and containing this energy, this part of ourselves that really needs to be expressed, that really needs to be explored and tapped in a little bit deeper. So for me, as a free-spirited, free thinker, sexually fluid person, I embrace that. I'm all about promoting sex positivity. And for those who don't know what that is, it's just stepping into who you truly are as an individual, right? And our sexual identity is only one aspect of who we are. So I can understand how my platform definitely has become this place where, people feel very comfortable to just be themselves, express themselves, let it all out. Let's get into it without further ado. Let's just go ahead and just jump right into this video. So this email was sent to me December 9th, just a couple days ago. Today is December 13th. And he said, I saw your YouTube channel. My mind and sexuality are very complicated. Interesting choice of words. I like that he is able to see that there is a separation between mind and sexuality, but at the same time, he puts the two together, right? Because there is a parallel process that's happening, right? When we tap into our sexuality, right? We express ourselves in a sexual way, and what's happening in our mind internally. The two are kind of like inseparable, right? They go hand in hand. And what affects our sexuality is a reflection of our mind and vice versa. Just keep that in mind, right? So, of course, me coming from a psychological perspective as a person who studies human behavior, I can't be so remiss to leave that aspect out, right? Because how we present ourselves, right, in the world, how we express ourselves in terms of our sexual identity says a lot about who we are as individuals and what's happening in the innermost parts of our psyche. Think about that. He says, I would like to explain my thoughts to you and see what you think. Would that be okay? Now, I find it interesting that he felt like the need to kind of baby step his way, right? To slowly kind of introduce himself. He didn't initially send me this email, which I receive a lot of those where from the jump, people just kind of go right in and put their whole life story out in the first email message. But that's not what he did here. It's like, he's like, hold on. Let me slowly acclimate her to who I am, because there's a lot beneath the surface, right? And I'm not quite sure if she's ready for this, right? So let me make sure it's okay. Like, he's getting permission before he delves deeper into what he has to share. That part I find pretty interesting. So I replied, I said, hi, what's going on? So here he goes. He did not go too in depth, but he did share some things. And like I said, I value and I appreciate, the level of transparency that you all bring when you share your stories here. All right, so hold on. Bring this in. So he did write several paragraphs here, right? So here he goes. He says, okay, I'll try not to make this too long. He begins by saying his age. He's 42 years old. I'm 40 years old, right? He says, I always thought that I was a straight white male. Oh, did you? This video might get a little heated, so I think I'm going to turn on the AC. What do y'all think about the title, by the way? We're going to talk about that. This whole small penis syndrome as it pertains to white beta male cuckold men. And I think when he says that, like, a lot of people can relate. Especially when it comes to how men have been socialized in our society. A lot of men, even those watching this video, who have historically identified themselves as heterosexual, they truly believe that that's what they are, right? And it's just a construct, right? When a lot of words are going to be shared here, right? So I think it's helpful to look at this through a sociological lens, right? In the sense that these are social constructs, right? Heterosexuality is a socially defined construct. The thing is that sometimes, because we are such dynamic individuals, we don't necessarily fit into these predefined constructs. But in order to label ourselves, to classify ourselves, to even relate to have a sense of belonging, right, in society, you have to pick a side. And then sometimes that identity is imposed upon you without your permission, right? This is what you should be. This is who you are. This is how you should identify yourself. He says, at least that is how I present. Excuse me. My throat is a bit dry. I think the air quality is kind of dry. But he says, at least that's how I present. Now, of course you do. Of course that's how you present, because that's what's most socially accepted. Being a heterosexual male, right? Even though, of course, America likes to tout itself as being this free society, right? This free country. I mean, I think it's a very long way from that. Because I live in New York City, and New York City is one of the most progressive cities there is, I would say, in the country. Being such, it still holds a stigma. There's still this layer of stigmatization that floats in the air, right? No matter the setting or where you are, like people still who identify as the minority, who make up the minority identity, whatever it is, as it relates to race, sexual identity, they still receive a certain kind of look from people. Anything that's outside of the norm. I had this conversation recently with a colleague at work because she was explaining how she worked at this agency that served individuals who had developmental disabilities, specifically autism. And she was saying how when she would take her clients out into the community, how difficult it was for people on the outside to grasp at that, right? To grasp like what they saw. And she felt that, right? She felt the energy. She felt these stares coming from people in the community, and it did something to her, right? It made her feel very uncomfortable, and she was recapping that experience as we were having a conversation in the office the other day. And I said to her, well, normally, the way we're designed as human beings, just naturally, when we see something that is different, we pay attention to it, right? That's just a natural occurrence in nature. Something independent of socialization, right? Or the nurturing that we have experienced in life. That's just something that naturally happens. You see something that stands out, that's different, you're going to pay more attention to that, right? So, yes, the same thing goes for people who are sexually fluid, sexually different than what is seen in the predominant culture. He says, although when I was younger and did a lot of drinking and partying, there were some instances with other guys. All right. And it makes sense because you were exploring your sexuality. And I think that's during that time when you say when you were younger, I would imagine like when you were in maybe your teens, late teens, right? Where you just became, stepping into adulthood. Young adulthood, should I say, right? Early 20s, it's more comfortable, right? And definitely more socially acceptable to kind of explore your sexuality in many different ways, even if it means stepping outside the heteronormative expectations or standards within your social group. That's just what people did at that age, right? We've all been there. Did all the drinking and partying. There were some instances with other guys. But I've never had any kind of romantic feelings or attachment towards men. And rightfully so. I think when people think of homosexuality, right, or sexual fluidity, or bisexuality, or lesbianism, like they're quick to assume that for those people, inherent within them is this attraction towards the same sex for reasons beyond just sex, right? Like, I think, it's easy to assume that a person, let's say a woman, for example, who identifies herself as a lesbian or bisexual, that, she has an attraction towards all women, right? A romantic attraction. And that's not necessarily true, right? Even beyond that, it's also assumed that they may want to have something that's more serious. And it could just be about sex, right? When we think of sexuality, that's exactly what it is. It's who you are sexually attracted to, right? So there's sexuality and there's romantic attraction. The two are different, right? Now, yes, a person can be sexually attracted to the same sex and also have romantic interests in the same sex, but it doesn't necessarily have to coincide, right, and go hand in hand. He says, I do fall in love with pretty girls. I've been married twice. Now, this is a part, like, I think, first of all, this is well written. This email that he sent is very well written. The way he kind of laid the foundation, and I'm going to circle back around to that in a minute, but he says, I've been married twice. After my last disastrous marriage, I had a few short relationships, and neither of them worked out, so I decided just to focus in on building my resources. Financial resources, that is. And eventually, I would think about maybe getting married again. I'm pretty smart. I have my own business, and I'm college educated with a side job at the local state college. Anyways, I have opportunities, right? Laying it out there. And I like the way he painted a picture of himself, right? Because as I'm reading this, right, and he laid it out, this first paragraph. I'm just like, okay, it's valuable. In my mind's eye, I can see an attractive man, right? Not necessarily physically attractive, but sexually attractive, right? Like not really physically attractive, but when I say sexually attractive, in a sense that, okay, this is a man that brings something to the table. I'm gonna come back to that. He says, physically, I'm small. Now this is where I kind of laugh. Like, I remember smirking to myself because I read this email before, like when he first sent it. I read it when he first sent it a couple days ago. And I remember my reaction when I was reading this. And he goes, this is the second paragraph, right? He's like, physically, I'm small. What's up, Hazel? She said, yes, I'm small. I'm only 5'3". So it's just like he paints this very attractive picture of himself. I'm college educated, got my own business. And when I say sexually attractive, I mean like the things that we value in our society, right? Being smart, college educated, right? Having your own business, having financial resources, right? being financially stable, being financially independent. Those are things that are attractive. And when I link it to sex and say that it's sexually attractive, I mean, coming forth with those things, especially as a man, you're more likely to get women. Not only get women, but get women to have sex with you. Like, a woman is more inclined to take off her panties or give up the panties to a man who is financially fit. That's what I mean by sexually attractive, right? Because it definitely ensues that attraction from a woman towards a man. It communicates things on a deeper psychological, evolutionary level, right? When she sees those things within a man that he brings to the table. But then, boom, he drops the bomb and he says, I'm only 5'3". So it's almost just like, you get deflated, right? It's like your heart sinks, like, what a bummer. I imagine this being a dating site and a guy that I'm interested in, I come across his profile and I'm reading this. I'm reading the first paragraph that I read, right? About how he laid it out and said that he has all these things. And then boom, 5'3", right? It's just like I'm no longer interested at that point. Facts. End of discussion. Height-wise, yes. He has to find someone his size. So, yeah, size and height specifically can be a major deal breaker when it comes to attraction in the beginning phases, you know? Height communicates a lot, especially for women, right? If you are a woman who was attracted to alpha men, dominant men, and a man shows up to a date and you find that he's shorter than what he said that he was, and that has happened to me, all that other shit went out the window, right? It's a deal breaker. I lose interest. It's like, first of all, you lied, number one. On top of that, like, how can I feel safe and protected with someone that I'm taller than? I don't want to dominate you. I want to be dominated by a man, right? I don't feel that you can dominate me if I'm taller than you. All right, let's continue. He says, however, I am attractive and muscular. I have a nice personality. I know how to talk. I go to the gym. So, yeah, you're saying despite being a smaller, shorter man, there are other things to make up for my height, right? Like, you're a social being. You have social skills, right? And I get that. I can definitely get that even just from your first paragraph. I got that just from the first opening, right? The initial opening, your introduction. And you lay it all out in the first, like I said, I like the way this is written. It's laid all out in the first paragraph, right? I go to the gym and eat well. I can still contract women. Even younger women hit on me. It's kind of surprising sometimes, but I do have insecurities. Although I tend to gravitate towards leadership positions, I know that I'm not a true alpha male because of my height. Yeah. That can be a deal breaker despite your nice personality. And I think, it can be subjective too, right? And y'all let me know, fill me in the comment section below. But I believe that a man can definitely have an alpha personality. And I've seen them. I've come across a lot of men who have been shorter than me or, shorter than the average man, right? They're like 5'6", 5'5" or shorter, but their personalities are tall. They're very smart. So you can go very far with this, right? They have that wit. They have the intelligence to move mountains. So It can be relative and it's very subjective too. But juxtapose all else equal, right? And you have a man that, take two men that's smart, that has nice personality, but one has the height, being at least 6 foot, taller, right? 6 foot is like the ideal, right? Not to say that you can't be 5'11", 5'10", but definitely 6 foot or taller is really the ideal. And then you juxtapose him against a man that's like 5'4", right? Doesn't need to be said that who the women are going to go after. Definitely the man who has the height, all else being equal. I want to know, and I know he'll be watching this, right? I really would like to know if you could follow up in a reply email, like, what are these leadership positions that you go after? I'm curious. And then you say you have your own business. What kind of business is this? Because sometimes, and I myself included, we have a tendency to kind of inflate our own egos and make ourselves bigger in our own mind's eye than who we are and what we are, right? So I'm just curious to see what kind of business venture you have and what kind of leadership position do you gravitate to. I know that I'm not a true alpha male because of my height. Also, I have a below average penis. I knew it was coming, right? Hence the title of this video. He talks about his penis size. I've dated shorter guys and their personalities was that of a 6 foot male. Yep. But they couldn't keep you. So you dated, right, shorter men with large personalities, but y'all not together. What happened? They couldn't keep you. It's like, can a shorter man hold your interest? They just don't do it. And I made a video years back when I was living in Los Angeles, California, about like what is more important, what matters the most out of these three things: penis size, wallet size, brain size, or essentially brain power, right? What's the most important thing? How would you line those three up? I've come across men with a variation, a different combination of all three things, right? And it's just like, I'm honest enough to admit that penis size does hold a lot of weight. And it's not about, and I think this is where the confusion sometimes comes in, because, a lot of men will be watching this, right? And then y'all will go and say, oh, well, they all assume that a woman desires like an anaconda. It has to be like super large. Absolutely no. Right? There's a limit to it, There's such thing as it being too big because it just becomes uncomfortable and painful, right? But it's about the girth. It's just about a woman being able to feel that man and feel kind of overpowered by a man through his phallus, right? Through his sexual energy, his lower chakra. It's just something about that when a man is able to make a woman knees buckle in that way. And the thing is, you can tell like a man that is lesser endowed because he does overcompensate. You see it a lot. And for me, I study people so much. I don't even got to see a man's penis size to know his penis size, right? Because there is an overcompensation. There's an ebb and flow, right? It's like a seesaw. And you see that, okay, yeah, he's doing a little bit too much in this area, right? He's telling a little bit too many jokes, right? He's overcompensating a little bit too much in certain areas. So what is he lacking? Because it's going to come around. You're going to come around to that point where, okay, cat's out the bag, right? And a woman sees what you're working with. And a man knows, like, he has a good woman. He doesn't want to lose her. He doesn't want something good to slip out of his grasp, right? So, listen, I've been there. I mean, when I say overcompensate in different areas in terms of like his personality, right? His wallet. Have a man spend a lot of money on a first date. I've been there. I shared a story, shared a post about me dating this guy that flew me out from Los Angeles, California to New York. On the spot, kind of last minute. This was a couple years ago. And I knew it was just too good to be true. Just like, okay, what's the catch? Right? What's the catch? Because everything else was lining up. I'm like, damn, financially fit, spending decent amount of money, and actually the date that he had planned was the most expensive date I had ever gone on. He came out of the pocket several $1,000s for our first date, right? On top of booking a last minute flight round trip from Los Angeles to New York. And lo and behold, not to say he was lesser endowed, but he really couldn't do much with what he had because he had a back injury. He's just like, okay, there we go. That's what I mean by overcompensating in other areas, right? For the lack that you know you have down there. You know there's a lack. And it becomes difficult. When the truth comes out, it hits the fan. You say brains. It needs to be filling. Yeah, so in terms of prioritizing what's more important, what's the most important thing out of those three, right? I mean, a lot of women may not say outwardly that, okay, they value penis size a little bit more. When I say penis size, okay, yes, this is kind of like a global statement, but that's not just penis size, right? It's the motion of the oceans, all of the things as it relates to being thoroughly sexually satisfied, right? The whole foreplay, everything that ties into it, you know? And if a man, because you have men during and after sex, have the audacity to ask a woman, how was it, or did you come? Like, listen, if you find yourself as a man asking such questions, let me tell you, I'll be the first to tell you right now, the answer is no. If you are so inclined as a man to ask a woman, did she come? Or does it feel good? Like, if you have to ask questions, sometimes I know men just want to hear it, right? But it's something in your subconscious mind that is driving you to even formulate that question. So to the point where you're saying this shit out loud, right? Like, it goes without saying, the sex was crap. No, she did not enjoy it. Because her body language is going to communicate everything. No man that thoroughly satisfied me in the bedroom ever asked me such a question. Because it was already a given. It was like, and I ain't even talking about faking orgasm or faking good sex. It's clear. It's clear, ain't no faking about it. You can tell. Men that ask those questions ask from a place of inadequacy. And you feel inadequate before you even get to that point of being able to get the draws. To me, that's very shameful. For me, that's a turnoff when a man asks that question. It's just, like, even about what's having a really good experience, that question being asked just shuts the whole experience down. Like, I'm not even turned on anymore. Because it speaks from a place of insecurity, of feeling inadequate, just being unsure about yourself, lacking confidence. Everything that is the counter to being an alpha dominant man. So of course he goes and talk about what his penis size is, being only 4.5 inches only. And funny enough, I think that, like, I've made a video about this before, you'll be surprised like how big 4 to 5 inches is. For me, and I think I can say this for a lot of women, it don't take all of that. You just got to know what you're doing. You definitely got to have a very strong, healthy penis. Because a man can have 7 inches and that shit can be very placid. Or flaccid is what's the word? It's flaccid and not strong at all. You know, like, you got to make sure that your shit is healthy and is fully erect and it can remain erect through completion. That's the most important part. You know, it's all of the things. It's not just size. But sometimes I think men, like, they underestimate the size of their penis until you measure it, you know. And then, have you measured it when it's fully erect? Or are you measuring your penis when it is flaccid? Am I saying the right thing? Sometimes I have to double check to make sure. I think it's flaccid, right? When your penis is flaccid, yes, soft and hanging, limply. All right, let's keep going. He said, this used to really bother me. When I was in middle school, I was terrified that someone would find out, and they did find out. I was still popular, but people knew I had a small dick. Yeah, it's all relative, right? So your size is in, relation to the sizes of other guys, right, who were in your age group, I just find it interesting that, and I know this happens in many different school settings, but this is not something that is talked about within the Black community. Like, Black men, or even at that age when they're in grade school or middle school, high school, they're not comparing their penis size. They may compare other things, but they're not. That's a violation. So that's one thing that I guess, being a Black woman, like, I can take pride in about my own culture. Is just like, we set boundaries when it comes to certain things. That ain't something that's done. And I can say this because I remember watching this movie called Moonlight, right? And when I watched it, I'm like, who wrote this? I think it's written by a homosexual or sexually fluid director, but the scene where the kid, is amongst other kids, and these are Black children, and their penises are all out. Of course, the movie didn't show the penises, but you can tell that they were comparing their penis size against each other, and it's just like, that's not true to form. That's not true to our culture. So obviously it's just a movie, and within movies, movies, it's art, right? And people kind of impose their own life experiences into what they want to create as creatives, but I'm like, nah, that's not really true to our culture, and that's not something that Black children are doing. And I can say that very confidently, being a Black woman, growing up in the hood, going to an all-Black elementary school, middle school, high school. I've been around Black people. Nah. I've been around Black girls, Black boys, because I had male cousins. It's just not a thing. If anything, that would be perceived as gay. That's just something that is like shunned. It's just something that like is looked down upon. Like, you're not talking about and comparing your dick against another. That's considered. That's gay shit. You'll hear like, man, let's get that gay shit away from me. That's gay. Like, what the hell? But I understand, like, within white culture, that's the norm. That's something that y'all do. Which makes me even think, even like to go beyond that, like, Whose idea was it to design the male bathroom the way it's designed, right? To have these urinals lined up. Like, I think that's some white man shit. Who really designed it? That's some white people shit. Has to be, because it's just like, listen, no judgment, but we're just saying though. All right. You were popular, but people knew you had a small dick. I guess the word got out. That's the thing. When you fucking in school, people talk. If the shit ain't hitting right, women talk, and they gonna let people know. They gonna let the girls know. Like, nah, that shit ain't hitting for nothing. Still, I always had attractive women. Because you were an attractive man, especially with your personality, right? You probably had this outgoing or charming personality. And I have a high sex drive, so I think it has helped to satisfy women to a certain extent. However, not like a big penis would satisfy a woman. Listen up. Big penis, it's not about it being big. It's just about being a decent size, right? Being satiable. You don't have to be an anaconda, but the girth, right? Just the perfect size and length and girth, right? And strength of it, right? Think about a good, healthy dick. It can make a woman lose her fucking mind. The digmatized shit thing is real, y'all. And I get it. That's the reason why a lot of y'all white men, I talk about this in my other video, taking a backdoor approach. Number one, you don't want to turn against your race, right? You're about race loyalty. So, your subconscious mind knows, what is so-called to be right or socially acceptable in your culture. This is things y'all do undercover, right? When, really you want to get a taste of that big dick. You want to become digmatized by the black penis. I get it. All right? You want to see what the hype is about. Especially when you find out. All right? Like they say, let me find it. When you find out, when you hear about something good, that's just human nature. Now, you want to get some of that too. You want to see, like, what's up with that? What's up with that? I get it. But yeah, being digmatized, that's a real thing. Women lose their mind. Listen, you digmatized. If you show up at a man's house unannounced at odd hours of the night, right? Banging on the door. You digmatized. Certain things that women do can let you know it's the dick. What else could it be? Right? It's not love. Love can make women do some crazy things. But good sex, it penetrates. It penetrates much deeper, I would say, than love, y'all. And that's the thing that I think people don't quite understand about sex. Sex is spiritual. Right? It goes beyond just it being a physical activity that's pleasurable, right? And goes beyond just, you being titillated in certain erogenous zones. It's deeper than that. When people have sex, when people have sex and their spirits are intertwined, it creates this soul tie. It creates this inseparable connection. You got people that have sex and their spirits have like interlocked. And even though, yes, time and distance may have separated them, all it takes is just like an addiction, a real addiction. All it takes is just for that one encounter to happen and it's a wrap. But of course we know, like with age, with time, things change too. So that dick, when it was hitting for something in the 20s, in the person's 20s or 30s, it may be different when you're in your 40s. Things do change. All right, let's continue. Yeah, he says, so I think it has helped to satisfy women to a certain extent, being his sex drive, but not like a big penis would satisfy a woman. He said, this is where porn comes into it. I have gone down a number of porn rabbit holes. I find it interesting, though, that people like in their 30s, 40s, you know, like as you get older, like you still watching porn. I don't know, maybe because I started at an early age. Some things to me get played out, and I was a teenager watching porn, but just just porn gets played the fuck out. It was something that was exciting because it was like forbidden, right? Especially at that age, where my dad didn't know I was fucking watching porn, you know. So it's like what's forbidden is more enticing and more exciting. It's something that you really want to experience, and you just gotta have it, like the forbidden fruit. But it's like after so much consumption of it, I mean, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, those who are watching this, but for me, it's like after so much consumption of anything, like you become desensitized to it, you become numb to it, like it's not enjoyable as it was before. And who would be calling me while I am live? I don't know. Scam likely. Fuck, yo. Fuck. Get off my phone. But yeah, it's like it's not the same. But maybe like you said, like you have been traditionally, you know, attracted to women. You had 2 marriages, unsuccessful marriages. So perhaps during that time when you were married, you wasn't really exploring as much. Of course, like you said, you did and dabble before when you were younger with men, right? I'm sure you probably was influenced by porn at that age. But then, you know, you fell more into your traditional socially acceptable role as a heterosexual man, you know, being married to a white woman, like married within your race. And so that didn't work out. And now you're coming into who you truly are. And this is what makes me ask the question and wonder, this person that you are about to describe to us, right, and to share and to reveal, is that someone that was already there all along? Like, was this person there all along? Perhaps. And is that the reason why things went awry in your past marriages? Could be. Because just imagine, right? It's like you have this identity that has been submerged, right? And that has been shielded, that has been covered up, that is not fully able to express and be who it truly is. And it's covered up with this outer shell. It's covered up with this facade, with this false identity of what is most socially accepted by people within your own culture, within your own race, within the greater society, right? You realize, okay, that shit ain't work. That shit is bullshit. Trying to do things that way or their way, society's way. I tried that, not once, but twice. It was okay, right? But it didn't last. But could you imagine, like, having this identity kind of hidden, contained, sheltered, and caged, and you're in a relationship with this identity, this aspect of who you are that hasn't fully quite manifested itself, but it was there all along. We all have our own perspectives and beliefs on sexuality, right? How it emerges, what it is. For me, I believe that when it comes to men, like, cuckold men, right? Who say, you know what, like, I'm kind of coming into this space where I want to try new things, and I have a white female partner, and I want to introduce her to this. I feel like, yes, this stepwise progression, though you are living it and perhaps you haven't fully quite realized what it is. Me, the way I conceptualize things, right, as it pertains to our existence and reality, I believe that though this reality of yours, right, is slowly developing, meaning that it's already there, but you're coming to understand what it is, and you're coming to realize this thing, experience what it is, right? Feeling comfortable, being able to explore it. It's always been there. It just goes back to the philosophy that, and it's not just philosophy, it's truth, that there's nothing new under the sun. And this is in every aspect of one's understanding of that phrase. And that idiom is just like, who we are, who we're born, right? And who we think we're becoming, we've already been. We already are. Right? So one's understanding and awareness of a thing doesn't mean that it's something that you are developing or you're, coming to know, right? It's just something that's always been there. You're just coming to know what it is. But it doesn't mean that it didn't already exist within you. So it's like, here you are at this point in your life that I think it's much easier for you to kind of let your hair down, so to speak, right? And to exist and step into this person that you are, this identity. And I don't even want to say identity, right? Because even that is a socially defined construct. But you're just being, you are, right? And like you said before in your initial email that you sent, it's just like, it's complicated. It's only complicated because you're trying to fit, but as I say, a square peg into a round hole. It's like you're trying to fit this dynamic manifestation of a person into the ideologies, the socially defined constructs of what has been taught to you, right? What has been imposed upon you. That's kind of what makes it complicated, right? Even the word complicated is a construct even of itself, right? But it's just like, if we were to remove these labels, with the labels comes what? Judgment. Judgment being good, bad, right, wrong, big, small, whatever, right? Is what we ascribe to that construct, to that word. If we were to remove meaning, remove constructs, remove judgment to these aspirations that we have, to these proclivities that we have, then will it be as complicated? You even internalize. It goes to show like how strong social conditioning is, right? Or social engineering has become, because you've now internalized that. And it's complicated because you're trying to understand who you are through the eyes and through the lens, through the context of others outside of you. It's complicated because now it becomes this external conflict. It's internal because you're fighting with yourself, really. You're not really fighting with the world, but you've internalized the world's perspective, the world's understanding, the world's judgment, and made it your own. So now it becomes this conflict, and it's complicated. But like I said, now you're at this point in your life where it becomes easier to let go of that which has shaped you up until this point that you're at now at age 42 years old. It's much easier because you've lived life, you have lived experience, and you've lived long enough and you've experienced enough to know people's opinions may matter sometimes, but for the most part, does it really matter? Does it really fucking matter? At the end of the day, does it really matter? How much does it really matter? Because you've done it. You've dibbled and dabbled. You've experienced. And especially having fucking 2 failed marriages. If anybody can attest to being able to confidently say that it doesn't really matter. Does it really matter what they think? Because at the end of the day, you have to live with you. You have to live with your decisions. And you can acquiesce and do everything in your power to try to conform to what they want or another person wants or expects. And you see, it's never enough. You can never conform enough. You can never agree or submit or acquiesce enough to what someone else outside of you wants you to do and live up to their. You can never ascend high enough to meet their expectations of you. You cannot. So it's like you have to go through life and have lived experience to realize this, to come back full circle and realize, you know what? Well, damn. What really matters is your happiness, and that's what you really have control over. Right? What makes you happy? Now, of course, that's a philosophical question. And exploring what makes you happy, oftentimes people will find that what makes them happy is what allows them to be free. All right. Excuse me, y'all. Excuse me for coughing. I'm so sorry. This is where porn comes into it. So this is where he finally comes to terms with, you know what? I'm just gonna be me. And if me comes down to this, then it's what it is. I have gone down a number of porn rabbit holes. At first, I was into trans women. Then femboys. I found small dick humiliation. Something you can relate to, right? I'm sure there are many aspects of trans women, right, that you can identify with. Even myself as a heterosexual woman, there are certain aspects of like trans women, certain characteristics, certain qualities that they embody that's very attractive. Like, do you know the level of self-acceptance, of confidence that you have to be at in order to become that which you choose to become, as opposed to what has been imposed or ascribed to you? It's very bold, right? I think sometimes it depends on how you look at it. We can look at one thing in many different ways, right? Depending on our lens in which we look at a thing. So, of course, there's a narrative to say that people who are trans, they are insecure in their bodies. They experience body dysmorphia, and they have all of these negative attributes and characteristics that then push them to become something that they were not naturally born, right? That's one aspect of it. But then you just got to think about really take some time to like immerse yourself into the world of a person who has made a decision to take their identity into their own hands, right? That's a very powerful person, right? So, we could cast judgment, right? We can pigeonhole. I think it's easier to do those things than it is to really take some time to look at it through a very humble and honest lens, to see the positive attributes that these people embody within them. And so I think for you who sent me this email, when you say that you stumbled across, sometimes people say, oh, I found myself in a rabbit hole. It's not really a rabbit hole. It's almost just like when you're on these porn sites, right? And I don't really watch porn. You used to not really watch it, but I've been in the porn world, right? So I know what it's like. And I can say this, and I've said this before, it's not that, oh, you just stumble across. Just like on social media. It's like what is fed to you and what you find is a function of your interest. Whether conscious or subconscious, these are things, you're drawn to those things that you are interested in. And it's like a magnet. How are you attracted to certain genres of porn? It's because you have something inherent within you that you can identify with in what you're seeing on these sites, right? So, in looking at trans women, ask yourself, what is it that they embody? Like, what is it? Is there, you know what it is that they have that you're attracted to? Beyond the sexual aspect, what do you identify with in trans women? Same thing with femboys, right? You say 5'4", or 5'3" male, 4.5 inches. Maybe there are some similarities there by comparison to the femboys and to the trans women. I found small dick humiliation. I was surprised how much this turned me on. I remember in one of your videos you mentioned how psychological trauma can shape who we become in terms of sex behavior. That's a fact. Could be. Not altogether to say that people who are drawn to certain proclivities, they absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, have a trace of trauma or sexual related trauma in their history. But oftentimes there is a strong correlation. There is an identified link between the two. Next, interracial porn. I really got hooked on this. How masculine and alpha black males are with the white girls. Size comparison in particular is extremely arousing. Eventually, Black Power, Black Dominance, and BNWO, Black New World Order, which I've already made a video on that. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But I've already made separate videos on BNWO and how it should not be confused with the real Black Power movement or Pan-Africanism in the socio-political context that we live in reality today, right? I know that people within certain sects like to try to blur the lines and to say that, oh, this is a BNWO could be a means by which black men who feel inferior, right, in society in relation to white men who hold economic and political power, this is a way for them to kind of salvage that power back. No, good try, but I say no. Says Black Dominance and BNWO was the top suggestions in my porn browsers. I'm sure this sounds and probably is very racist. That's just your interest. I wouldn't say it's racist. I apologize. There are these terms, beta, cuck, white boy. Then I realized that I want to be the feminine role to a very dominant male. Go figure. I mean, you get in where you fit in, right? So, especially when you look at who you are as it is socially defined within your context of your own culture, right? In the white community, you know, as a 5'3" male, even though you say you have your own business, and you align yourself with, very like leadership, powerful positions, right? You still hold a degree of a sense of inferiority, so to speak, right? Which I would like to say you identify with that sense of inferiority with black men, right? Who also hold a degree of inferiority. So it's ways that you, as a white man that you are, lesser endowed man that you are, in your own way, right, can identify with a black man who is lesser endowed in a political sense, though he has that endowment, right, in a sexual, physical sense. So that's a trade-off, right? And looking at that trade-off, it could make for a so-called match made in heaven, right? In the sense that you complement each other. If you are more endowed, I have like, this cough. And it's not the smoke. This is incense. It's not the smoke. Never been a problem for me. I just think, I even took off work today because I kind of felt underneath the weather. But it makes sense that for a white man who is like lesser endowed, sexually, physically, finds his solace, right, his counterpart in a black man who is lesser endowed in other ways, right, politically, in our society, and it's like a compliment to each other, so to speak, in that way, or a trade-off, and they could fit together perceivably like a glove, right? I have much more to say about that too, though, especially obviously being a black woman, being a Pan-African, being a pro-black. I know those are just words I'm kind of throwing out there. Some people really don't know what that means, but in a nutshell, Pan-Africanists, we believe strongly and hold true to the practice of uniting black melanated people, African descendant people across the globe, and we believe in putting our African race above anything else, so race first above anything else. Just in a nutshell, right? But it's definitely much more layers and more intricate than what I just shared here. So with that being said, obviously I am definitely for keeping the black family together. I understand like the importance of unification within the black family and ultimately the black community, and how interracial relationships don't necessarily serve to as a function of that unity, right? If anything, is counterproductive to the unification of the black man, the black woman, the black family, and ultimately the black community, and then obviously the greater context of the diaspora of Africans. I get it, right? That's my perspective, and that's the reality of what Pan-Africanism is, what it stands for. But being the person that I am, right, being the free-spirited individual that I am, I definitely like to look at things from many different angles, different perspectives, and so I get it. I understand. He says, there are these terms, beta, cuck, white boy, then I realized that I want to be the feminine role to a very dominant male. So I went on a gay hookup app, Grindr, set my header to black only, and have met a number of alpha men. I am able to attract men and at least for sex. I absolutely love having a black man in control of me. I would love to see what you look like. You say you are physically attractive. Perhaps you are. And that's why it is not difficult for you to attract men. But at the same time, if you say you obviously have financial resources, that can be very attractive too. The thing is, right, I paused there because, and y'all correct me if I am wrong, but the thing is, when I think of black men who like to dibble and dabble, right, and are attracted or are open, are sexually fluid and open to being with white men, I look at everything really in the context of a sociopolitical lens, right? Through a sociopolitical lens in a sociopolitical context. And so different things obviously motivate different people. And if I said this before, like it's important for us, especially if we are going to be astute, self-aware beings, to ask ourselves, like, what is driving me? What drives me to engage, right? Without, not judgment, right? It's taking away the label of good or bad or whatever. It's just being curious to know what is motivating me to do this, right? What drives me to do this? I can say this, for a lot of black men, whether you know this or not, as a white, cuckold, beta male, man, however you identify yourself, whether you know this or not, a lot of black men are drawn to white men, not necessarily for who that man is, right, as an individual necessarily, but it's more so a status symbol, so to speak, right? It's just like, what does that white man perceivably represent in our society? And how can I benefit? It's more a transactional type of investment or interest than it is like, oh, I'm romantically and, you know, you are the man of my dreams kind of thing. It's not that deep, right? It's more like, okay, what do you bring to the table? How can you enhance my life? They may not say this. But as some people have suggested, which if you notice, I didn't completely dismiss the stance of BNWO. I didn't necessarily, embrace it with open arms necessarily, right? To say like, okay, this is the ultimate solution to solving the problems of white supremacy in our society. However, I understand how black men are, and not just black men, even black women too, are inclined to date interracially as a function of trying to level themselves up, right? To gain leverage in society, right? In the socio-political context of our society that has been created and imposed upon us. I get it. What do y'all think, though? I'm curious. For those who made it this far in the video, feel free to share your thoughts on what you think about that. And of course, some of y'all have said, "Oh, well, you're trying to pitch this idea, like, oh, well, this could be very helpful, for a lot of black men, who feel, even, like I said, black women too, like, oh, even like yourself, like, oh, this is how you can leverage power by dominating and taking on some white male slaves, white femme boys." And he's like, oh, I'm not, that's not my thing. I'm not attracted to white men per se. But I get it. I definitely get it. And I know, I can tell you this without a shadow of doubt. Right? This is what I do for a living. This is what I am amongst. I am very well versed when it comes to race politics and what's happening in my own community. And I can tell you this, that black men are in it for what they can gain when it comes to dating interracially. Whether they're dating a white woman, no matter, white woman, Asian woman, white man, they trying to see, how can I level up? And they see it as a way, like it's a ticket. Considering, like I say, going back to the beginning of the video, the social constructs of what does it mean to be white, right? Perceivably, to hold privilege, to hold greater access to resources, perceivably, right? Let's put a disclaimer there. Greater access to resources, and so on and so on and so on, to not be considered a threat, or to be considered less of a threat if I am partnered with a white man, right? If a black man is partnered with a white man, and somebody can do the research on, I'm pretty sure research is already being done on this, okay? When we get wind of things the powers that be, they are already a million steps ahead. They've already been there, done that, and already got whole fucking dissertations on the shit. But I'm sure there has been some research, some data collected to see how has Black life been impacted through interracial dating, right? When we look at life expectancy, the risk for a Black man being killed, let's say by police, or being killed by another Black motherfucker, right? Answer this. Do you think that risk is lower if they are married or partnered with another white person? Yeah. Right? It's lower. That's just a fact, right? We can go deep, but I know this video is already getting long, right? So it's just one aspect of things. And so it's just something for white men who are watching this to consider. It's like, yes, and listen, everybody comes with their own needs, their own wants, right? And everybody got an end in it, or reason why they're in it, right? Or in on it. Everybody is driven by their own needs, right? So that could be what drives the Black man, right? And you got your own, you know what I'm saying? You got your own thing and you're getting out of it too, right? They getting something out of it. You also are getting something out of it as a white man. Maybe we can talk about that. What is it doing for you to be dominated by a Black man? And another aspect, and this is something I thought about deeply, is that, is it domination really? Like, is it really domination that you're seeking? Meaning, you're saying that you're coming from a submissive standpoint, right? As a 5'3" white man, lesser endowed, with your penis size, 2 failed marriages or unsuccessful, right? Or not lasting marriages. Do you have children? You didn't mention children that came out of those marriages. Perhaps not. Who knows? All right, maybe you want to mention that. But that's a whole nother level right there. You didn't even produce children from those marriages. So perhaps you do feel more emasculated than what you really have painted yourself out to be. But is it domination that you're seeking? Or, meaning, is it that you really want to be dominated? Or is it that you are, it's funny how sometimes what things may seem is never what it truly is. Right? So, on the surface, it may appear as though, even a submissive, I can even speak for myself, come off as being submissive, which I am. But where does the power lie? It really lies in the power of the person who is submissive. If you are giving something, anything you can give can be taken back away, right? And that's where the power lies. At the end of the day, though, on the surface, on a superficial level, it can appear as though a white man, like you said, you laid it all out in the beginning, the first paragraph. You paint this very nice, attractive picture of yourself, being educated and having these resources and college educated and having your own business, and not to mention white man, right? Coming with your privilege or perceived level of privilege, you come with all of this, yet you reduce yourself to lesser by comparison to the black man who you say holds this power in his phallus and this dominant energy that he comes with sexually. But at the end of the day, juxtapose the two side by side, who holds the power? Who really holds the power? Now, obviously looking at this through a socio-political lens, the same lens in which I look at a lot of things through, one can say that, listen, you hold the power still. Even being 5'3", up against a black man who's 6'2", with a big dick swinging left and right. Right? Maybe you want to give up some of that power. You want to share some of that power. Maybe it emboldens you, empowers you to know that even with your short stature, you still hold the power. That could be a flex by itself, right? We could do a part 2. All right, let's keep going. Then I realized I wanted to be the feminine role to a very dominant male, so I went on a gay hookup app, Grindr, set my header to black only, and have met a number of alpha men. I am able to attract men, at least for sex. Exactly. My point. Exactly. But nothing beyond that. But you said like you romantically like girls, like you say you like pretty girls, right? I attract pretty girls. You said that earlier. Is it that? I think actually you do get into it. What you really want, how you truly envision, right? This ideal vision you have for yourself, or where you see yourself. We're going to get there. So you said attract men at least for sex. I absolutely love having a black man in control of me. So here's the issue, okay? I'm almost done, by the way. So here's the issue. I do still find women attractive and romance the idea of a traditional family structure. That's funny. I can relate to that. Listen, I can relate to that. Maybe I should take a cough drop. I've been coughing all on y'all. I've been coughing all on y'all in this video. Let me suck on a cough drop. Guess it is that season though, huh? A lot of germs spreading. They live in New York City riding on a goddamn subway train. It's germ infested. Here's a good part. So, here is the issue. I do still find women attractive and romance the idea of a traditional family. Like I said, I relate to that. A lot of people do, right? It's very relatable, and I'm glad that you came with the level of transparency that you did, because that lays the groundwork for connection, right? When people, the more transparent you are, the more vulnerable you can be, right? Taking a step beyond just being transparent, you're being vulnerable. You're sharing parts about yourself that can be perceived as a weakness, right? So that's what makes you a real human being. And people can connect and relate to real human beings, right? Real human beings can connect and relate to something that's real, as opposed to something that is just so superficial and fake. And you gave us the real here in this email, which I can appreciate. That's the reason why I don't mind responding to your email. I know it took a while though, right? It only took 4 days, right? 3 days, 4 days. Well, I can definitely appreciate this email. Very candid self-disclosure that you gave us, or you're giving us. Because a lot of people do, especially women, we romance this idea of, what's been taught to us, how we've been socialized. I grew up in a 2-parent household with my mom and my dad. They were married, So, of course, I feel like that's the norm. That's what I should aspire to, because that's what my mom and dad had, right? So why wouldn't I want the same thing for myself? I was a product of a 2-parent household. My mom and dad married. I'm 40 years old, never married, no kids, right? And so that, for me, is a struggle somewhat. Because you're holding on to this idea of what life should be like. And of course, life doesn't stop. The time doesn't stop. Time continues to tick. And so you're just like, okay, will I ever have that, right? And I think this is where the midlife crisis comes in, because it's like, okay, you reach a certain age and you have these beliefs that have been embedded in you about how things should be when you're at this age. And the fact that it's not, you're just like, oh shit, something is wrong. Something is majorly wrong. Something needs to be done, or what's going to happen? The world is going to end, right? Life can't go on. Something has to happen. Something has to happen. Either you change your perspective on what should be and what you're expecting, or you continue to try to strive and try to grasp for something that may not never be. And so, like you said, you're a smart man. Why continue to grasp for something that just, you trying to pull something out of the sky, it's not even fucking there. It's not going to ever be there, right? So you're smart enough to adapt, to think outside the box, to change your perspective. And I believe that this is where I can show an appreciation for people who just live outside the box. Or it's not about me saying that, I live by this lifestyle of homosexuality, bisexuality, cuckolding. No, it's not that. What I value is just people accepting what is and living in their truth. That's what I can respect. However that manifests itself, right? So no, a lot of y'all will reach out to me and y'all say, oh, well, I know that you're into the cuckold lifestyle. And you think because I talk about these things so openly and transparently and freely that I myself am in alignment and I practice these things. It's not necessarily. I have my own niche, right? So, I've talked about how I'm interested in BDSM. I identify myself as a submissive. We'll talk more about that later. But yeah, so I have my things I'm interested in, but no, I just appreciate people accepting what is and being able to adapt to life, because life can be difficult, right? Like you said, it's complicated, but it doesn't really have to be, right? And you can still live a fulfilled life as a human being. You can be happy in life. You deserve to be happy, to be well, to live life freely without judgment and having to internalize the asinine expectations of other people who don't even fucking matter. Like they don't matter. Their opinions of you do not matter. Their judgment doesn't matter. It should not matter. What matters is, you stepping into who you are, what you are, not even really having to define what that is. You don't have to put a label on it, though I know we feel inclined and forced to somehow having to put a label on who we are. Right? So, saying I'm a trans, you say that, you're a heterosexual man, but you are attracted to X, Y, and Z, right? Trans women and femme boys, right? It's like you don't necessarily have to put labels on it. You are who you are. This is what you like. But I get, for the sake of communication and conversation, there are labels that you use. But now I can't help but wonder if sexuality, I would prefer to be cuckold in a way where I am allowed to participate, or yet maybe I just want to be submissive to an alpha black male. See? There you go. I think what it is, it's better if I remove this, but I think what it is that because we have become so indoctrinated, and some of that indoctrination, and we have been indoctrinated in many different aspects, right? Not just like as it relates to sexuality and how we should identify, how we should express ourselves, but religion, right? What we should believe. Like, religion has played such a significant role in our indoctrination, and that indoctrination runs so strong, so deep, it can be hard to break. And I think that's where you see the issue comes in, because you still have this, like, you still romanticize this idea of the traditional family structure. And is it that you romanticize it? You have, right? In society romanticizes it. So it's just like you internalize that romanticization. Did I say that right? Of the traditional family structure has become something that you've like embodied yourself and wanting to attain. And because you attended it at least twice, you got married twice, but not that you only attempted it. You probably attempted it many more times than that, obviously. You just got married twice and it didn't work. And it's like, okay, you're chasing after something that you put so much energy and effort into. It's almost like, trying to fulfill the American dream, right? Which, if you have been told that you should go to college, become a doctor, right? And maybe you attempted it, but maybe then, you failed some classes and you fell on hard times, things didn't work out. And just like you want to continue to try to keep chasing that until you achieve it. That way you can say, listen, I did it. I didn't fail at it, right? But then when you achieve it, it's just like, and I feel like I'm at that point, and I kind of started the video by saying that, today I received my first paycheck as a licensed psychologist. It's like, once you get to that point, it's just like, why did I do this? Granted, it was something that I wanted to do independent of anyone else's imposition onto me, right? Because nobody in my family told me to become a psychologist. But granted, college has been something, obviously, that society, pushes high school students to do, like, go to college, right? And I did that. And it's just like, I achieved the highest degree in my field. You did that. So let's say you were to, what you did that, right? You did get married twice. So you can say, listen, I did it. I lived it. What more else do you need from that? Like, what more else do you need? What are you trying to prove? That's the question here, right? Maybe do it one more time. You can say 3 times the charm. Like, what is it? Do you feel perhaps your other 2 marriages were incomplete? You didn't get full closure? Perhaps that's why you try to do it again the second time around. Then you said that was disastrous. So what are you trying to attain? It's like you're trying to go back for something. What is the word? I know, like, I'm pausing because I'm trying to think of the word. The recompense is like something you're trying to salvage, right? You're trying to go back and get something that you didn't feel you quite achieve, right? So maybe there's a void there. Like, who are you trying to prove? And I get it, like, and within certain cultures, especially like, y'all culture, white culture, just like it has to be done this way. And if it's not, then you letting down your mom, your dad, you letting down your culture. Right? So you're still holding on to that. Meanwhile, you say you when randomly wait, sorry. But now I can't help but wonder if sexually I would prefer to be cuckold in a way where I am allowed to participate. Like you're trying to balance the two, right? Perhaps you can do both. Or yet maybe I just want to be submissive to an alpha black man. I know it's ridiculous, but I love the idea of being a housewife, 100% submissive. Now, I think that's where you're saying the complication comes in, because you've thought about this and you probably wonder, like, can I even do all of this at the same time? Can I be a housewife 100%? You say a housewife, I would imagine is not to a white woman, right? It's to a black man, black dominant man at that. So where does a woman come into play? Or is that still like your conditioning, right? That you're still grappling with, you're wrestling with. All right. So also, I do wonder why I'm only really attracted to black men now. Not white or Latino men. It could be a form of rebellion too. I've seen where a lot of, I'm coughing all over y'all, but I've seen where, white men have deliberately stepped outside of their race as a statement, a bold statement. Like, what better way to say, fuck you, kiss my ass, all right, to your own race than to date outside of your race. That's like the biggest fuck you to your own race, really. If you really want to say, you know what, I've been let down by y'all. I've given you my heart, my soul, my life, and this is what you do to me. I invested so much into you. This is how you thank me and repay me. So you know what? Fuck you. I don't want to have anything to do with you. And in fact, I'm going to date outside of my race. That is the biggest fuck you. But understand this though. When you do that, whether you're black or white, no matter who you are, right? When people date outside of their race, that is a bold statement. But it does say a lot about you, where you stand with your own self. That's what we fail to realize. It's like we think we're doing something to our race, so to speak, but we are a part of that race. So what we're really saying is that we've given up on ourselves. Some people aren't at that point of realization and understanding to see that, okay, they're dating interracially as a function of some unresolved trauma, race trauma that they are dealing with, that they haven't really dealt with. Some hurt, right, by their own race that they haven't quite resolved. Some self-hatred. So for some people, they step outside as a solution. In their mind's eye, it's a solution. Make them feel better, right? And when you're doing it on a public level, right? When you're dating interracially publicly, and we ain't talking about just behind closed doors. There's a whole nother level when you're doing this shit publicly. Remember, in America, we live in this race-laden, race-salient society, right? Everything is about race. So, of course, when you are out and you are with people of the opposite race, it's a bold statement to do that. Just as well as it's a bold statement to date same sex and be out publicly. A man and man holding hands, kissing, woman and woman kissing, right? Bold statement. But you don't know why. Explore that a little bit further, though. You'll come to understand why you're only attracted to black men and not white or Latino men. Sometimes when randomly talking to a black man, I start to get butterflies. I imagine this is how women feel when they're talking to attractive men. I'm not sure if those butterflies could be coming from past experience or vicarious experience that you have lived, right? You say you watch porn, so it could be coming from porn, but I think it's much deeper than that. Don't blame porn necessarily. I think porn, yes, is a tool, but I don't think it's the cause necessarily. I think it goes much deeper. And I think those butterflies that you experience are communicating something. When you say you experience butterflies, right? This is the thing. Sometimes, like, we only look at the here and now and our current experience, our present day experience, without interpreting that experience in the context of generational lived experiences, right? So we inherit things not only on a genetic level, but also on a spiritual level, right? Genetically and spiritually, it's passed down through the generations. So if you can understand genetic inheritance, through our DNA, right? And how when we do like a genogram and you go back generations and you see how, okay, certain things have been transmitted down the family pipeline, right? From your grandparents, right, onto you, right? And if you have kids, you see it passed down. If you can understand that through in a similar vein, things are passed down psycho-spiritually too. And that, like, if you really go back and understand your history and understand what was happening in your grandparents' time, you can say a lot. What was happening in your great grandparents' time, right? Interracially, and how that manifests itself now with you being inclined to date interracially, especially black men. Those butterflies aren't just there spontaneously, without context, without reason, without cause, right? I'm not sure if I slowly brainwashed myself or if this is just my nature. I'm not in a rush. I'm taking a break from relationships. I'm not even really having casual sex at the moment, but I'm just like, what the hell is going on with me? It could be an exciting thing though. I mean, for me, I embrace things like that when it's just like, wait, this seems bizarre. And how is it bizarre? Because you're looking through someone else's lens, trying to make sense of something that is happening with you internally. You're speaking of yourself through an other lens, right? Other people see it as bizarre, but do you really see it as bizarre? Perhaps, yeah. You've internalized that belief and you don't quite understand it. But if you come to accept yourself, right? You are living within yourself. You are you, right? So I just find it interesting how sometimes we make that detachment from ourselves. Like when you say it's bizarre, you're detaching away from yourself, almost as if an other person. You become this other person looking at yourself from the outside, looking in, detached away from who you are. You're looking at yourself as an observer, as opposed to embracing yourself from within of who you really are. But it's good, like you said, you're not in a rush. So that's a healthy perspective to have. Because I definitely, obviously, have read emails from people who are just so angst. And they are obsessed. And they are in a rush, right? Like, they are thirsty to just jump into something because it's new, right? It's a novel experience. It's exciting. It's butterflies. It's, oh my gosh. And like, just slow down for a bit, right? You know, yes, you're in your 40s, but if you're healthy, you still have a ways to go. And so it ain't going nowhere. These experiences will still be there, right? And I think it's more helpful to slow down, to have these reflective conversations, right? To get in tune with what is driving this interest, these behaviors, and that way it's like you can really fully materialize and feel, the magnitude of the experience when it happens. I think it just makes things that much better when you understand. You come to a deeper level of understanding. All right. And not just like solely by yourself, but with the person you're doing this with. Like, if they also have a deeper understanding, then I think that is just what heightens the experience even more. It will. And it goes beyond just having sex, right? Like you said, you've been able to attract men sexually, but it hasn't really materialized beyond that, and it seems like that's what you are desiring, right? Meanwhile, you're still trying to come to terms with this, idealization of the traditional family structure. So it's a process, definitely. I'm not even really having casual sex at the moment, but I'm just like, what the hell is going on with me? Appreciate your feedback. If you do decide to talk about me in your videos, please don't use my name. Thank you. I don't use anyone's name. Names are not important, at least not for this And I did follow up and ask him what city is he in. He says that he is from Fort Lauderdale, but he lives north of that. So he's from my home state, Florida. Way to go, way to go. So we have wrapped this video up, and that concludes this video topic here. I do believe that small penis is a syndrome. I do believe that some men are obsessed with their penis size, not just men who have smaller penis size, but I think, definitely men who are well endowed. It's like become the cornerstone of who they are. They get wrapped up into their dick size, and it's like, okay, what happens when your shit malfunctions? When I say when confidently, because yeah, it's going to happen. If age doesn't do it, stress will. If stress doesn't do it, the substances that you use will, right? You're gonna come around to that point. So then what, right? Then who are you? And it comes to having to adapt and redefine your self-worth, being independent of what's between your legs, Some of y'all, like you, born with that smaller penis, so you had no choice but to accentuate other peripheral things outside of your penis size, which is a good thing. It goes to show that you're not vain. A lot of men, that's just all they got is a big dick. So it goes to show the vanity of it. It goes to like women who just obsessed about having a big ass. It's just about, oh, I got a big ass. It's just like, okay, that's all you have, right? Who are you apart from that? Some people are just still trying to figure that out. So, good topic, good video, good content. Feel free to share your comments below, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Hopefully I can get rid of this freaking cough.